Assalamu'alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Today, in this occasion, we have the program We Can Teach Now and the Now for speaker is Faathir or Faathir. Time is yours.
Okay. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. For today's weekend teach talk, I would like to be explaining OSPF routing, or basically OSPF in general. And so for today's example, I will be using one of my assignments as one of my examples to show you how OSPF or the different variations of OSPF there are you can use in routing. So let me first share my screen real quick. Alright, so as you can see here, here is my here's one of my assignments that consists of using OSPF. Now, currently I use this assignment requires OSPF and BGRP. Now, what is OSPF and what does it do? Basically, OSPF in um, my understanding is basically a way to easily connect to local routers. Like let's say here on router one, you have OSPF, and you want to advertise your IP address. A way that you can advertise it is using OSPF, and OSPF will allow you to basically use advertise your IP address to the nearest routers, such as router 4, router 3, and router 2. Now, let me show you an example. As you can see here, second to expand my screen. As you can see here, I have OSPF enabled on router 1, and it is connected to network 111 is basically router 1, but that is a loop back. This is for router, as you can see here, wait. Where 223.1 is for router 3, network 12.1 is for router 2, and router network 24 is for router 4. Now, how does advertising work? Advertising basically, you have two, here, let me pull out my notebook. You have two routers, let's say router 1 and router 2. Router 1 will have the IP address of 10.1, and router 2 will have an IP address of 10.2. Right. Router 1 will have 10.1, router 2 will have 10.2. Now, how advertising works is that OSPF will basically localize your IP address towards the public. So it will look something like no, the message will look something like this can this also uses TCP. TCP is basically how networks communicate with each other. So it will say something like I'm 10.1. Is there a Um, Now, as you can see, router 1 has introduced themselves as 10.1, and it is looking for another 10, and because router 2 is also 10 in the 10 network, it will say um, 2 and basically introduce itself to 10.1. Therefore, router 1 will uh what's the word? Router 1 will know the router 2's existence, and router 2 will know router 1's existence, and they will be connected since they're on the same network and also localized. That's how advertising works. Now, another, what do you call it? Another example of OSPF is, let's say, let's check area 22 real quick. Area 22. We also have OSPF, of course. As you can see here, in router 8, we have a tunnel that leads towards area 0. Oh, I forgot to mention, in OSPF routing, we have areas such as area 0, area 1, area 2, area 3, area 22, and area 11. What is areas? Areas is basically, as you can see, like a certain area. Let's say an area is a house. Here's house 0, house 1, house 2, house 3. Each area has their own routers and has their own basically private property, is what you can say. The network is in its own private property, and if you're in this house, you cannot communicate with people in the other house. Why? Because they're in their own um, they're in their own area. And how can you make area 22 communicate with area 0? And that's by using tunnel. What is tunnel? Um, I think the name is pretty self-explanatory. Tunnel is basically a tunnel for a router to connect with a different area. As you can see here, we have IP address for the tunnel 1, which is 108. And how does tunnel relate to OSPF? Because it also uses OSPF. OSPF, it advertised the tunnel address for it to be able to work as the tunnel. Because without advertising, you won't really have anywhere to go without being advertised. As you can see here, I have tunnel 1 from router 8, and then another tunnel from router 5. Um, so how does tunneling work in long terms? Long terms, but in more detailed form. Same thing. Network to network, just like this example I have over here. We're gonna switch up with tunnel. Let's say tunnel 1 to 2. Because only tunnel 1. And then we're gonna have a new one from tunnel 2. Tunnel 1, as you can see here, is 100, 108.1. Now you can get the gist of how this is gonna work. Blah blah blah. Is there a militant? And on router 5, aka tunnel 1 and 2, router 5 has both tunnel 1 and 2. It's because um, router 5 is basically, you can say, like, a gate between tunnel 1 and 2. So it's basically like border. Tunnel 2 is going to have about 108 and 100 and 205. Basically, um, I would say router 5, as you can see here, since it's in between router 2 and router 8. Router 2 is tunnel 2, router 8 is tunnel 1. Router 5 is in between both of those, so it will need both IP addresses from the tunnels for them to be able to communicate. So router 8 can ping to router 5, and router 5 will ping to router 2 in 8's, in router 8's name. As you can see, the same process using TCP and blah blah blah. And yeah, you get the point. And blah blah blah. So, in more simple forms, in a more simple form, advertising is basically getting to know your mutuals. Let's say one would like to know, or one already knows two, the two knows three, but the one would like to get to know three. So, what one would need to do is go to two to be able to go to three. So it's basically, yeah, it's basically like that in most of the form. Or let's use, we can use Google Maps. We can use Google Maps. Well, I feel like I don't feel like. Let's say here, and using another example. Let's say you want to move out. Let's say you want to go to another country from Indonesia. What you need to do is obviously, well, not all the time it happens, but you'll need to transit. Let's say you go to India, and then you go to Japan, and then you go to, let's say, US. Now, in order for you to be able to go to here, you'll need to transit to Japan first. Same thing with TCP. One one knows two, two knows three, and one wants to know three. That's how it works. That's how TCP, or um, that's how how advertising can be uh, connected to tunneling. You know, and a great example, virtual link. See the virtual link. I have virtual link on area 11. Now, on area 11, let's open it up real quick. No? Oh, okay, let me start here. And as you can see here, um, as you can see here, I have both BGP and OSPF on this router. Now, why we're going to talk about OSPF real quick. I see a mistake that I made on a configuration I've made earlier. Not routing, virtual link is also similar to tunnel, basically. It's also similar because it's a way for router 7 to be able to go to router 1. So basically, they're in common. How does virtual link work? Virtual link uses, I guess, a different command. It will use specifically area 11 instead of, like, let's say in tunneling. In tunneling, you will instantly use area. In tunneling, you would instantly use area 0. But no. In virtual link, you use area 11 first. Now, I'm not sure if this is a slight typo I've made, but in my guess, it's not. I won't know myself. So, you would use area 11 instead of area 0. And I'll remind you that area 0 is the center of all of these. And tunneling, you use area 0, but in virtual link, you use area 11. Authentication. I think authentication is also a OSPF. I think. I don't think so, but we'll talk about authentication real quick. What is authentication? I guess you can say it's like a password. It's somewhat of a password. Authentication will basically be connected to multiple routers. So let's say, in this case, 1, 2, and 3. Router 1 will have a lock or like a keychain, and then there's going to be keys. Like, you can imagine a keychain, and then the keychain has multiple keys. The keychain will have a name. Let's say authentication 1, and then the keychain will have the authentication 1 name, and then the keys will have the blah 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 names. And then you will basically do the same command for each of these. I don't have authentication added to my lab yet, I think. So I don't think I'll be able to kill you. Oh, and loopback. OSPF loopback. What is OSPF loopback? I think I have OSPF loopback on my review. Here we go. Here's the loopback. Loopback is basically an IP address for its own router. You can have multiple IP addresses for one router, such as loopback 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. But for now, I haven't advertised them yet. Usually, we would use them for multiple things. Like, let's close this tab. Give me 1 second. Let's close this tab real quick because I have more labs that use OSPF. It's not just this one. I just like to use this one since it's pretty laid out already. Excuse me. Now, let's move on from the loopback really quick and talk about VRF, because VRF is actually pretty interesting in my opinion. Now, what is VRF? VRF is basically a virtual local area network. A virtual local area network works the same, not really works the same, but it divides, I IP addresses, or it divides people with the same IP address from someone else with the same IP address. Like, let's say you're in classroom A and you have the same IP address as someone from classroom B, but it won't, and those IP addresses won't interfere since you guys are in a different VRF in the situation. Let's check our. Let's check. As you can see here, we have router OSPF 1 VRF left. So left will be the same. Then OSPF 2 VRF right. And the networks, as you can see, the networks are the same. The one network on the left, one network on the right. But you can see over here, it you divide the same networks in a different classroom, so they won't interfere with each other. So let's say, like in the same case, someone has 1.2 in one classroom, but someone else has 1.2 in another classroom. They won't interfere since they're in a different VRF. Router 5 will block this, will block those. So it like let's say some like my name is going to be A, someone else on the other side of the wall, his name is also A. I won't know he exists because he's on the other side of the wall. Same as this. Router router 1 won't know that router 2 exists because they're on a different side of the wall. Even though they have the same IP address, they won't know they exist to each other. My explanation of OSPF routing and basically the different variations of OSPF. Yeah, maybe if I do have another example of OSPF, maybe I can extend this word a little more. Let's check on the other one here. Let's check on the one. Just to while on the quick. Alright, so one last example before I wrap up my explanation. This is also HTML. But in here the tunnel is a little different. I don't think I have another example. This also has the same OSPF variations as the first one I showed you. But yeah, I guess that should be it. I'm sorry if I was lacking in materials or any variations of OSPF that I didn't really explain well. That should be it for that should be it.
Okay, thank you for Faathir, and thank you guys to see we live the program VTT, and thank you very much. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.